you're like me and you saw that clip, you had a few thoughts go through your head. Firstly, haha, funny, the Spanish Inquisition. But what is a Spanish Inquisition and what is an Inquisition? And yeah, I was kind of confused. So I just decided to follow through on that task today, and I'm gonna tell you what a Spanish Inquisition is and what an Inquisition in general is. So here it is, the Inquisition. First, let's talk about the beginning. What is the Inquisition? Well, Inquisition, not the Inquisition, but Inquisition is actually a judicial process instated in Roman times, and it works very similar to our regular modern day court system, but there are a few pretty major differences, like what the accused representing themselves instead of a lawyer, and since they take the role of their own lawyer, they must gather evidence, and they couldn't efface their accuser, and the accused also went into trial without being able to receive counsel, and there was a prosecution. And it was a bit different before, like, the system changed over time, right? But when Christianity really like popularized it, it changed a bit. And I'm saying because Christianity popularized it because uh, the Inquisition, the practice of Inquisition, was actually developed much earlier than Christianity was, and it was in fact it was made alongside the Roman justice system, which is a lot similar to ours today. And it was developed so that magistrates were basically just like court officials, I guess, so that they could investigate crimes without formal charges. And again, this system was in place before Christianity, and so it wasn't used that often because, again, there wasn't really heresy, which is what inquisitioners were usually looking for, or almost always looking for, sorry, when they did inquisitions. But once the Roman Empire converted to Christianity, they would use it a lot to root out heresy, and that's why it became so popular. And all right, I really need to tell you heresy real quick because it is important to understand. So heresy was basically a threat to Christian social order in the form of an opinion usually, and because of that, a stigma against these heretics grew. And there was also a procession for how an inquisitor would come to town. So here's how they did it. First, when they arrived, they'd announce themselves so that people could come up to them and they could, like, announce their sins for like a less serious punishment. And these punishments for announcing yourselves earlier would range from a pilgrimage to a public lashing. Overall, not as serious as if you get caught, which you most likely would, or you would just be punished anyways. Because after you testify, you would be tortured until you confess, even if you are falsely accused. And if you didn't, then execution. Alongside false accusations, abuse of power was common, with people using this power and using it like the burning of heretics at the stake, even though they have confessed, by Count Raymond VII of Toulouse, or confiscation of the land of the accused for riches by Count Alphonse, Count Raymond of the Seventh of Toulouse's successor. And there were others who also used this power and abused it. And now that you know what Inquisition is, it's time to learn about the Inquisition. As I said before, the practice of Inquisition started before Christianity and became more widespread as the years went on, with conversion of Rome and as the years went on. Slowly, Europe united under Christianity, so people outside the unity were viewed as threats to the entirety of society. And due to this hate against heretics, who were basically just people who didn't have the same beliefs as the Catholic Church. Many anti-heretic actions were taken, and things only got worse as time progressed. Like the exhuming, which means removing of a body from a Christian cemetery, or again, burning heretics at the stake was very common, like the Joan of Arc and many others. And it spread as well. First, it was really concentrated in Western Europe because that's kind of like where most of the Christianity started. I think. No, that's not where Christianity started. But basically, that's kind of where Christianity was really localized at the time, and it spread out across Europe, and it like really just spread the stigma. Uh, and all right, fine. I'll get on with the actual history. In 1880, in 1184, Pope Lucius III sent bishops to southern France to find catharsists, who were also heretics, and were also Christians, but their ideas opposed the Catholic Church. And this continued into the 14th century. And around 1184, they pursued the Catharsists and they pursued the Waldensians in Germany and northern Italy. In 1231, the Dominican, or the First Order, and the Franciscan orders took over the role of tracking down heretics as ordered by Pope Gregory. Now, when inquisitions became popular, there wasn't a handbook for them, apart from the one that came out in 534, which wasn't really a handbook, but it was actually a record of all the inquisitions that had happened. And made in 1248 or 1249, this handbook was big because it like gave a guide as to how these inquisitions should be led. So it really helped Spain, which also wanted an inquisitionary office after their Reconquista was done, because their Reconquista was basically them reconquering their lands from the Muslim invaders who had taken it, and then they decided to institute a inquisitional office there, not just for the Muslims who still resided there, but also for any catharsists who was there as well. And this wasn't at the Pope's request, but instead the King and Queen of Spain themselves, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. And even later, when the Pope attempted to limit this office's power, the Spanish crown did not allow them to do it. And after the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa and Pope Alexander III reached an accord reconciling their respective powers in the Peace of Venice, the situation began to change a lot. This happened towards the end of the 12th century, by the way. People began to treat heretics worse and worse and worse, with the King of Aragon declaring that heresy was treason, and suspicion grew as well, with 15,000 Knights Templar being tortured in France due to the Inquisitioners poking around. And the Spanish Inquisition was the worst of all. I don't have time to go over like the deep in detail history. I feel like that would take too long. Sorry about that. But the Inquisition was huge in Europe, and its effects are still there to this day, across the West, the East, but most prominently in Spain. And so now you know, what is an Inquisition? When did it happen? And why was it Spanish in that clip? So, thank you all for watching, and who knows, maybe I'll upload another video. See ya!